the Podfix Network.
Hello and welcome to episode 237 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk
about filmmaking.
From indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. I am Giles Alderson, I'm writer, director and producer.
I am Dom Lenoir, writer, director and producer as well.
What? When did you grade up? When did you get your scout badge? What? It's true, you are.
Also been a best boy.
We don't want to talk about your private life. Today on the podcast, we talk with the fantastic director Ryan Andrew Hooper, whose latest film, The Toll, is out now. It's a darkly comic thriller about a lone toll booth operator with a past that is fast catching up with him. The movie is written by Matt Red and produced by Mark Hopkins and stars
Michael Smiley,
Ewan Ryan,
Paul Kay,
Gary Beadle,
Steve Oran,
Julian Glover, and
yes, Elwie.
Amazing. What a cast he has got. So, Dom, why don't you give a little roundup of what our lovely listeners can expect?
We can find out how he made all of his shorts, the importance of knowing how each department works, how he funded his feature.
And we also talk about how restriction can be restrictive, which sounds more obvious than it is. And we also talk about being precise with how many shots you do while making your indie film, and how having a strategy is vital.
What's a strategy? What are you saying, John? You struggled with that one, didn't you?
You're going to mock me back. I love it. Good for you.
We also discussed his method of doing a different short as the concept for the feature rather than taking the intro or a first few scenes. Being precise.
Precise, you've done it now. I'm getting you back. Precise. Don't forget to be precise, everyone.
This is what happens when you do the intro late at night. Being precise on shot lists. How you can differentiate yourself from others, and dealing with the trials and tribulations of reviewers and reviews.
We also talk about the importance of a pitch deck. Do you use a ring binder? Do you bring slides to the meeting? Or do you bring a stand? A full step and repeat? Well, maybe Ryan did. He talks about that. We also talk about framing scenes and being clear with your direction. All that is to come.
Clearer than Giles' intro.
Clearer than Dom's precise. It was precisely clearer than Dom. All that's to come on this week's Filmmakers Podcast. How are you, buddy? You seem on good spirits, which is also very nice. It's nice to hear.
I'm still high on the fumes of the weekend, the metaphorical fumes, not method.
I hope so. Why? Where have you been, Dom?
Yeah, we've both just done Fright Fest with our respective films. How did yours go?
Followers was a surprise. It was. No, I mean that in a nice way.
You got any more followers?
Real ones. I have no idea. But the film went down well. The audience loved it. I think it's always nice to see it with an audience. Obviously, this whole time of editing it and getting it ready, the producer Steve Jarvis and Tracy Jarvis has done a brilliant job, as well as the editor Will Honeyball. Just so well on their own, on a laptop, and suddenly now it's playing on a big screen, and it was quite incredible to see. And it got a lot of laughs. Did really well. Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's all right. Got loads of 4-star reviews afterwards from all the wonderful Fright Fest watchers, should we call them?
We can indeed. Yeah.
And yours. Let's talk about when the screaming starts.
Yes, we've had some very good 4-star reviews as well. We've also had 2 different publications list us as a top 10 pick for Fright Fest, which is pretty exciting. And we were the only film in the whole festival to play 3 times and sell out all of those screenings. And probably the only one to bring probably the only film to bring a stuffed cat to the premiere with a little bow tie and a tuxedo on.
Do you mean you are the only person to bring a stuffed cat?
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
There's pictures. There's proof of this. The Dom brought a stuffed cat.
His name's Richard. And I also insisted that he was on the IMDb and in the film's credit as Richard the Stuffed Cat, played by himself. And I stand by my decision.
It's great producing, to be honest. It's great producing that you demand to bring the stuffed cat to the premiere. Actually, it was kind of a cool gimmick. You know, it was a really nice thing. You also brought a step and repeat, which is basically your own poster that you can sort of fold up. And what is it called? Massive poster? What would you call it?
It's called a banner, yeah. I insisted that we buy the biggest banner sort of humanly possible. And
really?
Then... yeah.
Where did you go? The miniature shop? I mean, it wasn't that big.
It was some kind of like magic online kind of system, and then you know, it's quite dark in Fright Fest, and there's a bit of backlighting with because it's all digital and all the cool sort of graphics
on the screen.
So we kind of very cheekily set it up in Leicester Square, and literally the entrance to the whole cinema
Empire
complex.
Cinema, yeah.
And then just it was amazing. I mean, you know, like the footfall of people looking at that poster. No one else, for better or for worse, was doing it.
I think it's great marketing tactic. You literally had it there forever. You just left it there as well.
Yeah, we did.
So people would always see it when they walk past. Went, oh, what's playing? And when the screaming starts, what's that? That was a great tactic, actually. I definitely recommend doing that. And did no one told you not to do it? And no one said, "Can you put that down?"
I mean, I think a couple of security guards sort of, moseyed on around to inspect that it was safe. But yeah, I think they were sort of fairly. I had a sort of a bit of a bodyguard pose on it, like I was guarding the poster, and I don't think they dared to come near and interfere with. I mean, I think one of them asked, "Is this part of the festival?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, because technically
it is. Yeah." And mate, they probably didn't want to mess with a guy who was holding a stuffed cat.
Exactly.
Probably what it was.
Absolutely.
His own little bow tie on. Did you actually get that made to fit that cat?
No. So it was Connor's mum, I believe, Connor the director. Who
What, the cat was Connor's mum?
No.
Yeah,
she's quite good at transformation. No, Connor's mum, I think, fitted the bow tie and reluctantly prized Richard from my hands after the evening of shenanigans.
Grasp.
Yeah.
It was a lovely screening. I really enjoyed the movie. I've not seen any of it before, and I thought When the Screamer Starts was fantastic, and what a brilliant debut from Conor Burrow, the director. I thought it was honestly a delight. Some of the performances were spectacular. I really enjoyed it. Me and you were laughing. I know you were laughing at your own movie, but I was allowed to laugh at it.
Objectively, was my cameo good or was my cameo not good?
Your cameo was good.
Yeah.
Your cameo was good. I was surprised.
I was also told I was playing myself, which I'm not sure is so much of a compliment. I'm a suspicious cinema goer for anyone who hasn't seen the film.
You are a suspicious cinema goer. So tell us, Dom, when the Screaming Starts be released? Do we know yet? When can people can buy this movie?
Well, we've actually got 2 more major festival announcements that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So we're kind of keeping a pretty tight lid on the distribution side while we figure all that side out and work out when our release schedule is. But the short answer is very soon on all fronts, and there's lots of news coming out.
What did you learn from Fright Fest this time?
I learned that Fright Fest it's a very fan-friendly festival. Like, I mean, a lot of festivals, people go there for the prestige, and there's a lot of, black tie and sort of after parties and things like this. But Fright Fest has
Fright Fest is not that.
Fright Fest is not that. But the fans are very dedicated.
I love them.
Real sort of horror fans. They go there because they love films, they love the movies, and I think that's quite a nice atmosphere to sort of go into for a festival. And it was pretty cool in Cineworld because everything was sort of digital, so you had all these like Fright Fest blood sort of on the stairs and the billboards and everything. So it was a pretty cool experience.
It was, and all the staff are dressed up in various horror outfits, and it's got that real Comic-Con vibe to it, I think, and it's nice. And there was some, saying the after parties, they actually did happen, and they were really cool, actually. I really enjoyed them. Considering it's been COVID, considering there has been issues, it was really good to get together with your cast, crew, teams, and just all open up for the first time in terms of being able to go somewhere and talk properly. I loved that. I really did. I enjoyed seeing so many amazing filmmakers there. So many. I got to see The Last Rite as well, which is Leroy Kincaid's and Chloe's movie. I loved it. Really super. And I saw The Kindred as well, which is my producers and followers who produced it with me. They produced Kindred, and it's Jamie Patterson's film, and I love that. And Jamie's been on the podcast, and he's such a cool guy.
He was great fun, wasn't he?
Yeah, really good. So I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. And like I say, so good to see so many indie filmmakers there, and so many people came up to say hello, and I really enjoyed that. So, keep doing that. Turn up to festivals and say hello to other filmmakers.
Yeah.
Love it. Right, good. Let's get to today's episode, shall we, Dom? Unless we've got any more exciting things or facts and wisdom.
No, just to let you know that there will be more than a few puns about the word toll, just to prepare you all.
I might have cut them out, Dom.
If you cut them out, there's going to be trouble. There'll be trouble, young man.
Wait, I thought you were going to do a pun then about I'd have been tolling you or something, or you'd have to pay the toll.
I'll be tolling you off.
Sounds too sexual. Right, here it is. Let's get to today's episode of the Filmmakers Podcast. Myself and Dom sat down with the fantastic Ryan Andrew Hooper. The Toll is out now. Do go support indie films. It's brilliant. Support it and enjoy this podcast and tell all your pals about this podcast. That's how we grow, and go join us on our Patreon site. We will see you next Tuesday, as always. Enjoy this week's podcast.
Have fun.
Hey.
Hey guys.
Really enjoyed the film. The Toll is brilliant. It was really great. Your debut movie as well. It's really nice to see that, and great cast. The first time you do it, it's frightening. How was that for you then, that first time? Because it is, you have no expectation. It's kind of like a short, but it's like the biggest.
It's like a long,
like 4 week short you've ever made. Yeah, it's a long, not a short. Nice, Tom.
Yeah, I think for me, like, it was just something I'd wanted to do for such a long time. It was just excitement. And I think we got fully funded through a micro budget film scheme, basically. I think in England it was like iFeatures. Or film or microwave. So we got the Welsh version is called Cinematic. So like very ambitious name. And that meant that the money was there, but we just sort of nothing. We were sat on for about a year until Mark, the producer, came on board. And we just he came on board, I think a couple of months after he joined. We were sort of in prep. So there was a lot of lead time waiting to do it. And then it was like all systems go, which meant that weirdly then there wasn't much time to sort of be nervous. It was just, I think like you guys are probably in it now, you don't really have much time to think. You're
just solving problems.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what fire do I put out today? What do I do today? I think because it's something I've just always wanted to do and I dreamed about doing since I was a kid. I just loved every second of it. So it was just like, just going to take this all in, because I think the sort of hit rate of a director making a second movie is very low. I mean, I think it's like 90% never make another one. So I looked you guys up and I was like, oh, Jesus, he's done way more than me. So it's like, just for me, it was like, I should try and enjoy every second of it, because I desperately want to do it again, but I might not be able to.
I love that attitude. That's because a lot of people go, and I know I did with my debut feature, I was absolutely cacking my pants, and I couldn't get over the fact that I'm making a movie. And same as you, Ryan, I've been trying to make a movie for so long, so many years, and suddenly when it happened, I freaked out. And there's loads of behind the scenes of me just sort of not, now I'm totally different. I'm like, no, it's fine. And I think because maybe it was a studio movie as well, the pressure was huge, and I was like, oh my God, I'll never make another movie again. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have. I don't know about you, Dom, because I know you'd made 2 other features before you made your first sort of major feature.
Yeah, I think I had a slightly different route in a sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was definitely stressful moments, like very stressful. Like, there was a couple of days when you don't think you're going to make it, and you've got 8 pages and like all your main cast and stunts, and the weather's changing, and if you don't get it, you don't get it. So there were some horrendous bits, but because I'd done like a couple of like really low budget features before this one, and I'd also sort of filmed like abroad on a couple of shorts, the stress of those was so high that nothing sort of compared in comparison. So I'd kind of got that stress out the way, but on films that arguably weren't particularly good. So that was kind of a bonus for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe in terms of just for the Toll, there wasn't really enough time to sort of have that level of nerves really. And I think like Dom, possibly I had made a lot of stuff prior to the Toll.
A lot of shorts.
Yeah, a load of stuff, and stuff for like, I worked for a charity where we made bucket loads of films with that, and I'd run a business, run a sort of corporate video type thing. Mm-hmm. I was used to sort of working with no time, no money, etc.
Doing all the jobs, producing it yourself. Yeah,
we had to do everything. So it was like, even now I sort of can't help but get my sort of fingers stuck into like things, trying to get it into cinemas and arranging Q&As and all that sort of stuff, just because it's what you're used to. I'm sure it's the same for you, but it's just what you're used to, because you nobody else will do it for you.
Yeah, you grew up that way, so you're like, well, I can't help doing that. And I agree. I think that's a good thing, though. I think it's good that you've learnt to do all the areas. You've probably held the boom, you've held the camera, you've worked out how much money you've got and how much things cost. And I think that's a much better way of diving into a feature than not doing that and going, well, I don't know what I'm doing and someone else should be doing that. You're like, I understand someone else's job. And I think that's one of the most important things you can do. And I always say, jump on other people's sets whenever you can, in whatever role you can, as if you want to be a director, producer, because you learn what they do, because it's hard work, all of those roles.
Yeah, I started, my first sort of gig was as a boom op on a low budget film that was shot in a week. It was like a gangster, it was a vampire gambling film.
Yeah.
And I was a boom on that, and that was brutal. I mean, that was like 15-hour days of, people being like, it was all shot on one location in a church, and it was pretty brutal.
High stakes, wasn't it? High stakes,
yeah. It was just because I think it's because I played the guitar. They were like, right, boom.
What?
Yeah, that's the only reason I could think. But the boom op they had was like a really experienced guy called Dick, and taught me loads of stuff. And what it did teach me is like the importance of understanding each department. Everybody thinks they're the most important department, but with sound often gets shit on. People don't care. They don't think like, is there a plane going over, or there's this or whatever kind of popping noise or whatever is going on. It's a lot harder to fix that in post than anything else.
Yes.
So it gave me an appreciation for sort of the difficulties of it. And like one of my sound recordist is one of my best mates. I know how much I can push him. And he's pushed pretty hard on the toll because the weather that we were filming in was pretty mental.
And the fact that you did it and then you realised that you can't change an aeroplane sound. So it meant that when you were on set, if you heard from your sound person and they went, oh, no, you need to go again, you actually went, I'm going to listen. Because oftentimes most directors go, but I had an amazing performance and I'll fix it later. And then you come to later and you go, yeah, you can't use that take.
Yeah, exactly. That's the worst thing, to be sitting there watching the waveform and they'd be like, no, well, it's embedded in, like, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not magic what we can do.
It's one of those things, isn't it? With like, they're the sort of like the gatekeepers to your happiness with a take. Like, the camera department. If the camera take isn't good, you'll know about it. They'll probably stop filming, or they'll make it very vocal. And then you get to the end of the take, everyone's excited. The actors have given the performance. You as a director are like, yeah, this is amazing. And you look around at the sound guy, and they're doing that face like they're delivering some bad medical news to you.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, sir. Are you sitting down?
And you're like, but couldn't it be all right? No, it's not all right.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's like they are the final gatekeepers, because they're the ones who can. There's a lot going on. You're meant to have your cans on, but sometimes you don't want them on. Or you want to be on set, or you want to
be in the moment, and
you want to be So it's. I know there's some directors who are like quite a long way away from set sometimes and do everything remotely with monitors and stuff, but it's not the way I like, because it's not the way I've ever done it. Like I never had monitors. We started with DSLRs.
Yeah.
You'd have to get a special thing, a lead and everything, and it's just like, you just have to trust that the camera, it's like old school almost.
Totally, yes, old school, yeah. I love that. You have to get a special thing like a cable.
They couldn't have, it was like 50 quid. It's like, I haven't got 50 quid to spend on a cable.
Yeah, it's true.
And then another 120 quid to hire the, I think it was like they call it Ninja or Atos.
Yeah,
Atos. Or Atomos. Yeah. It's like, I can't. I've already spent 100 quid on the DSLR. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like, I can't afford this.
And I agree with you. I think it's great to, like, especially with acting, just to watch the acting and be up close to it. I know a lot of people that like the monitor and they're spotting things on set, and I think there's certain, like, when you're doing like a big wide shot or a big action scene, you need to be looking at a big monitor sometimes, but being close to them, you spot things and you react, I think, emotionally, whereas watching a screen far away, you don't quite get that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's sort of the way that I like to, because you pick things that, like you said about working on other people's stuff. Like I worked on a mate of mine's film, and I think he was an editor beforehand, and then he became a director, but he prevised everything. And I literally mean everything. The entire film was prevised and he had a little monitor next to his monitor with the quite detailed previs, and it was all on sets as well. So like he was literally built the whole thing, and he almost never watched the actors because he was more in, think, right, I've done a close up here and you have the time code set out. He had the whole thing forensically planned out.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, I find that like a weird way to work. It's quite a sanitized way of working.
Yeah.
It's like a commercial. It's like you're trying to hit the beat to fit in a time slot. Well, the Coen brothers work that way. They're the Coen brothers, you know.
That's a different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you're talking your first feature and you're going, no, microsecond here, I've got that look. That's pain. Actors hate it, for one. You can't get in a rhythm.
Massively, yeah.
And in the edit, you've got no choice.
Yeah, you have no latitude whatsoever. So it's not as fun.
It's like being in prison.
A prison of your own making.
Creative prison, you know.
Oh, okay, good.
Restrictions are can be a positive thing creatively, right? But I think when you're so like the stuff we did with Paul Kay,
I love Paul Kay.
He loves improv, and the writer was on set a lot of the time, so they were able to work together. The sort of the two of them and the three of us and me and Paul, and we were able to sort of. I didn't want Paul to do a Welsh accent to begin with. But he wanted to do one, and we thought, right, here we go. There's so many, like
dodgy Welsh accents everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
And it's a bit like if someone from West Wales doesn't sound like someone from East Wales, and like everywhere really. But he pulled it off pretty well, and then we gave us a bit of latitude in what it is that we were able to do and what his character was, and we gave him the opportunity to sort of to improv as well and use his strengths to add to the project.
And imagine if you were doing what, like the guy did that you helped on that film, and you've now got Paul Kay wants to improvise and throw things out there, and Michael Smiley wants to change stuff. Yeah, and now you can't because he's going no, because this is set in a box, and I don't know how you'd work that way.
No,
really.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, the film didn't turn out brilliantly, but in his past as an editor, he's obviously incredibly fastidious. So that was his way of working, but it's not, I mean, everyone's different, and it's not a way, like I wouldn't do what Fincher does and have like a billion takes.
No, well, we can't afford it for one, can we? That's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. I was watching, yesterday, Promising Young Woman I watched last night.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah. And there's a cool scene with Alison Brie and Kieran Mulligan when they first meet at the tables. This is a spoiler if anyone hasn't seen it. It's not really a spoiler, but I was watching it, and you can't help but do this. You end up looking at how many setups they have. Mm-hmm. And there was a wide, there was two clean singles, there was like an angled single on each of them, and then there was a low angle looking up where there was like a light fixture that was red above her head. It was beautiful shots, right? Mm-hmm. I remember thinking, on the toll, that would have been wide single, boom. And that would have been it, and I would have had 2 takes because we didn't have enough time.
Yes.
So that's the benefit of money, I think.
I guess from my perspective, and it's kind of a positive really into how much you went into the characterization of the characters. But I wasn't, although I was enjoying, the cinematography, because each of the characters were so unique and they had such distinctive kind of traits to them, and I was so interested in what was going on with them. I felt like the attention really was on the performances and their kind of behavior in a way, and also maybe the story that you sort of jumping backwards with the bits of the details. There was a bit of that kind of mystery and keeping you on your toes. But I didn't see that as a negative, not having hundreds of angles, because I was so kind of engrossed in the character side of it.
I think it fits well with a Western aesthetic as well. Anyways, that quite often they were you didn't have to have a billion in one take because they're shooting on films. They wouldn't have had time, and the money probably to sort of spend on it. But then also, you're taking the benefit of giving the actor the opportunity to perform. Yeah. And I think that's what, there was a sort of barometer on set, which was sort of like logic and if it looks cool. And it was because it's a strategy towards making a low budget film, right? So the strategy for us was we had very limited money. I think on-screen budget was maybe 250 grand, something like that, if that. And we had to decide, there's different ways of doing this. So other films in the scheme that have happened prior to us, and then other films as well that have happened, low budget movies, is a tendency to think single location, two-hander, and there's loads of great films like that. There's the one about the guys who did, I forgot what it's called, the one with the guys who did the Haunting of Hill House, where it's Hush, I think it is, when she's deaf. Yeah. Really, really good film, right? Set in one location, really interesting idea, whatever. So I'm not negging on those types of films, but it's I don't want to make that. So I might never make another one. So like, fuck it. Sorry if I have to beep that up. Fuck it. Let's just go nuts. Let's just swing for the rafters. Let's go cars, as many locations as we can.
Beautiful vistas.
Most casts we can get.
Yeah.
As much, just really, really swing and work with animals. Everything we could do. Yeah. Exactly. That was the idea. And I thought it might even, strategically you're thinking it might buy you a little bit of good grace with the critics as well, who may overlook some of the more ropey moments and think, well, at least they're trying something different,
Yeah, I love that. I do. I think you've sometimes got to go for it, haven't you? And swing. Otherwise you're being too safe. And now you've made a splash and you've made a brilliant film. And I think that's the point. You could have easily done this safe, get it all tight in the toll booth and not had this big, Tarantino-esque stories that you've put in Expanse. Let's, if you don't mind, just tell people what the toll is about, and we'll play the trailer and then we can dive into it.
So the toll is a West Walian Western about a toll booth operator whose past catches up with him one day and all hell breaks loose.
Most people's lives could be considered unremarkable, aside for one or two defining moments where people find out who they really are.
Which way are the Irish ferries, mate?
The search is over.
You didn't want me to do that, didn't you?
10. Oh, I don't know the call for this. There's been a terrorist incident.
A what?
They were speaking their own language. They weren't speaking in English.
You don't think they could have been speaking Welsh?
This gentleman been sent by a crime family who are intent on taking over your turf.
Hand over your takings. How much is it?
£1.20.
Oh, come on.
We usually encourage tourists to stick to sightseeing.
Anything unusual today?
Do you have anything to chop him up with?
Nothing out of the obvious.
What can anyone tell me about our friend in the toll booth? No one will tell the truth when it comes to you. I want to know why.
I done a terrible thing a long time ago. Somebody's gonna have to pay for it.
Shit just got dark, boy. I am a man of action.
How much of what you told me is true?
If justice you're looking for, this is your last chance.
Where'd you hide his car?
It's funny, isn't it, when we have to do press for our films, you suddenly have to get really kind of good at doing some interviews want a certain little soundbite, others are like ours, which are rambling and just let's talk about filmmaking total. And yeah, you get used to sort of saying certain things. I find it fascinating when people come on the pod and they've not practiced or they don't know their own, pitch, and you're like, okay, you're just going to talk about this for 20 minutes? Yeah, you're not getting money from us. I love it. All right, so you mentioned the scheme that you got the money for and they put all the money in. That's amazing. Let's talk about how that happened, because obviously you'd not made a feature, but you made all these amazing shorts and obviously you were sort of making a name for yourself slightly, but still making a feature. That leap to making a feature is, everyone says it all the time. How do I jump from making a short with my pals and people I can get together to making a feature? Like you said, you've been trying to make it or wanted to make one since you were a kid. How did it come about? How did you even start that process? How did you do the pitching? What worked for you?
Yeah, so, Matt and I, we were strategic. We had like a 5-year plan of what it is that we wanted to do. So Cinematic had happened once before and I'd been involved in that, and we got shortlisted. It was with a documentary about a guy I knew who he thought his grandfather was a spy, and it's actually been made. It's sort of, it's taken a long time to get there, but it's going to come out soon, hopefully. I was a producer on that. We came very close. We went through the whole process, but we didn't get through. So there was another scheme running at the same time for shorts called The Beacons. So Matt and I had a strategy of saying, right, what we'll do is we will try and get funding for a short film. We'll use that as proof of concept to then, when we go to pitch for the feature through the cinematic scheme when it runs again, we'll have something that we can physically show them of what it is,
Perfect.
What it is that I can do. So that was the plan. So the feature came first. That's the difference, which I think is important because, and then with that, what was important to me was that the short wasn't the first 10 pages of the feature.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you will end up getting lazy critical reviews of saying, well, they did a short and then they've expanded it. And it's not, it's just a feature, which is just an idea that could have been done in a short. Mm. And so the short is very different to the feature. It's in no way kind of similar.
Except it's set in a toll booth.
Except it's set in a toll booth. So it's shot almost entirely at night, and there's kind of a westerny feel to it. But it was really just, I cut a trailer out of that. So I sort of sat down, watched about 1 billion YouTube videos of like how you cut, all the little tricks that they use. And if you're only shooting in a pitch, you can use I use the music from Hello High Water and stuff like that.
Exactly, it's a pitch. Yeah, perfect.
When Matt and I pitched for those things, we were quite sort of, again, strategic in how we wanted to pitch things. So the one thing we didn't want to rely on was technology working. So we did like an analog pitch, is the best way to describe it. I think in my previous job, I'd learned to have to be a bit of a design, like graphic design stuff. So I made things to give to the people on the pitching panel. So I made mock-up air fresheners with the triplets masks on them and stuff. And then I made this sort of lookbook that was it was a ring-bound character lookbook, which I gave to everybody, and wanted them to have something they could take away. So maybe they would put it on their desk, forget about it, and then a couple of weeks later see it and think, oh yeah, this was interesting. I remember that guy. I remember those guys.
Yeah, nice.
And then all of our slides, so to speak, were printed out on sort of A2 pages, and we brought a stand with us.
Oh, wow.
And we printed them out and we had them with us, and we could physically show them, and we were never reliant then on what, Dom drop it out just out to me. Like technology happens, you never know what you're set up to do. So
true, yeah. Don't be like Dom.
We did the same thing for the short, and then we sort of ramped it up for the feature pitch. So when we did the short, we purposely went in without a producer attached, because we were hoping to find someone and say, well, if we get the money, we can find a producer and they can do the short and they can do the feature, which is what happened. That's sort of ultimately what happened in terms of the production company that came on board. So yeah, it was always very, very strategic about, and trying to work out a way to differentiate ourselves from the other, incredibly talented people who were also pitching. I think we were in one. They did a lot of workshops and stuff as part of the scheme, and I think I was sitting in one, and there was one of the people in there was a guy who'd done produced a bucket load of features, and his director was a Fulbright genius scholar, a Rhodes Scholar, and I was like, oh Jesus, she is going to get the money, because I would give it to her. Do you know what I mean? She sounds incredibly impressive. So you always think oh, who's going to get it, who isn't going to get it?
Was it just one? Was it just one amount of funding?
No, there were 3. We were very strategic. We were very we want to try and be memorable. We want to go to all the workshops and really make an effort to show that we care, say that we have a plan of what it is that we want to do. Being able to show a trailer was really useful, because I'm not really a fan of sizzle reels, pinching other director stuff. I just think I never really understood them.
I know what you mean. Sometimes it needs must, and I get why people do it, and I've done it. But again, you're just showing someone else's work that you've edited together well. Yeah, I get that. It's well, is it going to look like that? Are you ever going to have that much money that it's going to look like Joe Wright or Tarantino or, Danny Boyle? Really? The answer is no. But so I like that attitude, but it's harder for some people, I think, to go and just go make a short or a proof of concept themselves, because that can look really crap.
Yeah, we were incredibly lucky to be able to do that. Really, really, like I said, it was part of the strategy, but we were lucky to be able to do that.
I think it's interesting what you did as well with the short being different to the feature, is because you kind of, I think one thing that is a potential pitfall when you're doing those kind of teaser trailers or something as a pitch concept, is that you don't put in, because you think, oh, I'm just doing a short version of this, or I'm not doing this version of that. Everyone involved kind of maybe thinks, all right, well, it's something, but it might not do anything. Whereas if it's its own sort of entity and you're creating it as a short, I feel people, always sort of really get on board when it is a self-contained thing for its own kind of purposes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally correct. I think they're just this. I think must have been the same for you guys. You've heard so many stories of people who made a first-time feature where a short came first.
Yes, totally.
And it's so common that there's a review which is, oh well, it's just, it should have been, it just stayed as a short, and it's just like, oh,
shut up.
Except with like Whiplash.
yeah, I know. And I said Jennifer Kent did Babadook, her short for that was very different to what the feature turned out to be.
Again, that's just lazy journalism. And again, to talk about reviews, they piss us off. And they are for you now in terms of your releases. Like when this comes out, your film will have just come out. It's coming out on Tuesday. So it's fresh for you. But me and Dom have been through this, and it's wound me up. Some of the reviews I've got have wound me up so much. They've hurt. They've really made, really got upset about it. And my sort of, if any advice I can impart is, it stops hurting after a while, and these people don't mean shit. You kind of just take the good ones and forget the people. Everyone's going to slag it off. They're just because people like to, and they don't care how much it was made for.
Well, we had a good anecdote on one of ours. One of the sort of major publications, I won't say who, gave us not a great review for one of the films, but we had the indie TV tracker on them, and they'd watched like the first 10 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. They hadn't watched the rest of the film, and then they'd given this kind of blanket, review of the whole thing. And you think, like, how can you be putting that out in a major publication when you haven't even watched? Just don't. And there's a lot like that. I think that just don't take it seriously, and they just think, oh, it's a smaller indie film or whatever. And
yeah. So if people do say, oh, they should have been a short, or it's, whatever people say, I just take all that and just go, I don't care.
Yeah.
We made a feature. You made a feature. Up yours, motherfuckers. Deal with it.
I think my sort of feeling was like, one, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and you should respect. And there might be things that you can take from it that would be, make you better. Mm-hmm. And you have to sort of learn to filter that out. But there's also the fact of thinking, like, I probably know more about films than this person who's writing. And I definitely know more about making films than this person. So
I think now, having dealt with it a few times, I just take those. To be honest, I try not to read them unless someone sends me the good ones. The PR sends the good ones. I literally now don't. And I think it can be a horrible hole that you can fall into when you start trying to read all the reviews, because it hurts every time you get a new one. Oh, there's a new review. Please be. Oh my God. And you go through that depression stage again. So my advice would be not, because just read the headline and go, move on, because it hurts. It does. And you take it personally.
Or send out the review request yourself, so it's harder for them to give you a bad review.
Exactly, yeah. This is from me, mate. So yeah. But I do think that's because it does sit with you. What I've learnt from sort of my time is no one cares about how much your other films were made for. They don't. It's almost like, cool, you made that, or they'll sort of, and Dom knows this as well, just ignore those and go, let's pretend you're starting again. They're almost like, especially in Hollywood terms, you made some features that were kind of shorts, you know what I mean, in terms of budget wise for them. So they just do, and certainly the people we're talking to now, it's kind of like, cool, you made them, all right. It doesn't, it's all what I think it is about is proving, his track record, proving you can make a film, you can go through the trenches, you can deliver at the end of the day, and you're still standing and still going, yeah, I fancy doing this still. That's huge. And for me, when I'm working as a producer and new filmmakers come to me, if they've made a film before, it doesn't matter how terrible it is, I will pay attention and go, do you know what? They've done it. They know how hard it is. Because there's nothing worse for me and Dom, whatever's coming on as producers, if a filmmaker hasn't done it, we now have to hold their hand much more than you would for someone who has been through the trenches. Doesn't matter what state that film's in. So you're already in a great place. In fact, you've made a brilliant film, and you're now going, yeah, this is my film. But I'd never worry about anyone caring how much it was made for, in terms of your flag is there, and this is what we made, this is what we've done, and it's great. It really is. This intermission is brought to you by Massive. As we all know, Robbie has sadly left us, but he's joined a massive movie studio. And there, his horrible boss has tasked him with developing movie pitches. So, Robbie, what is his crazy idea this week?
Okay, I got a difficult one, Giles. It's a hot property.
Oh.
Well, my boss, he's obsessed with Gremlins. Mm-hmm. The Gremlins franchise, he loves it. He wants to make a new Gremlins film. Yeah?
Oh my gosh.
But he needs a new gimmick. Of course, we all know the Gremlins. You can't feed them after midnight. If you do, they turn into monsters. But how do we make them more intimidating? How do we make them more fierce?
How about we make them big? like massive.
You make them big. I like that.
Crazy.
Yeah, so they're like stomping the city, they're walking around. That's great. Making them massive. Okay, awesome. Well, where can it take place? I mean, we had the previous locations, like maybe it was New York, Chicago. What can we? Where are we going to set the third film?
Oh, somewhere glamorous. How about the city of Hull?
Right. Okay. City of Hull. Yeah.
It's pretty glamorous.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Okay. Well, how does Gizmo save the day then? Our favourite little gremlin.
Well, Hull is the home to the largest Yorkshire pudding factory in the UK. So how about Gizmo corners them and pushes them all into the vats, and they all turn into Yorkshire puddings.
Send them out to the nation. Wow, that's grotesque. I love it.
You can imagine the product placement already.
Yeah.
And as a cool marketing spin, you can only eat them after midnight.
Definitely. Giles, I'm greenlighting this right now. This is amazing.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah. You're a genius at this stuff. This is why I call you.
Anytime. Oh, Gremlins. SOS. They'll be rising for you. If you have a massive movie idea or any large files, transfer them with Massive, spelled MASV. Sign up for Massive today using massive.io/filmmakerspod and get 100 gigabytes free towards your transfer.
Can you transfer Gremlins with Massive?
Yeah, there's always Gremlins on my computer.
You want to get that looked at, mate?
Link is in the show notes. What's your directing style then, in terms of working with people like Michael Smiley, Paul Kay, and your amazing cast that you had? Do you storyboard everything? Do you shot list everything? And then how do you work with actors within that?
I storyboard some bits, shot list everything. But one of the things that sort of happened on the tour was we were really behind in the first week. So we've been planning this film for years. So I think it'd be the same with you boys. If you've had a project that you've been mulling over, you just know every ounce of it, like it's all in your head, you know exactly what you want to do. But I think the problem we had was then I had to sort of adjust the style a little bit and be like, okay, we need to really simplify because I don't have time. We already didn't have enough time. Now we seriously don't have time to sort of do everything. So it's going to be a lot of very simple, single, wide, single, So there were certain things I wanted to do, in terms of, I never have a dirty frame. I sort of like that negative space in between the characters. And if there is a dirty frame, it's for a specific reason, So Smiley is always center frame.
Nice.
Always in the middle of the frame. He's always domineering each scene that he's in. And there's only 2 scenes really where anybody comes near him. And that's the leader of the triplets. They end up on the same level. And Catherine. When she sort of chats with him, and that's her. So, and in that scene, even trying to get that power dynamic of having Catherine standing up and Smiley sitting down, is like still he is in charge. So she is never quite center frame, and he is bang straight in the middle of the frame. And then what that does do is free you up to work with the actors. So, and there's a lot of actors in this film, and a lot of them are of varying different experience levels. Smiley's done shitloads. Evelyn, who played the Elvis impersonator, she'd done nothing. Then you had, I think I talked about this before, was at the standoff scene. We have all the characters there. You've got Julian Glover, who has been in Bond, Harry Potter, Indiana Jones. Yeah. It's a guy whose face melts in Indiana Jones. I was like looking at him thinking, I cannot believe Julian Glover.
I know. After his face melted, he's back. What a recovery.
I honestly couldn't believe it. I was so but then you're working with the most experienced actor you can possibly imagine, as well as someone who's never done this before. And then one of the other guys, Hev, he plays one of the farmers. He was basically like the Welsh Macaulay Culkin, best way to describe it. He was like a big deal in Welsh language TV, a bit of a heartthrob. But he sort of stopped acting for ages. And then I brought him back for this. But I remember I was having a drink with him in a pub, and one of my mates came over who was a Welsh speaker, and he goes, do you know Evan Rees? I was like, yeah. He's like, and his character name from this Welsh soap as a kid. I was like, yeah. I didn't even know he was an actor, but when he was a kid, he was like this big deal, and he came back. He hadn't acted for a while, but he's brilliant. I'd have him in everything I do. I loved him.
Lovely.
But then in terms of how you work, and it is like in terms of every actor's different. Some actors want a lot more direction than others. Some need it more. Some you are like with Gwyneth playing the triplets. I remember saying to her, the first couple of scenes we did, she was modulating what she was doing. So I was like, right.
What do you mean by modulating? Sorry, just to explain.
She was like, it was like she was self-editing almost in terms of like where her tone was.
Right.
So I was like, right, I want you to go to 100, right? You know, in terms of how you'd approach this, and we can dial it back if we need to. Okay, but just trust me that. Well, I know that's all you're doing as a director, and you're just setting the tone.
Yeah.
You're trying to make sure the tone is even if it's mad, at least it's even throughout, you know. That's another lazy criticism. It's like, oh, it's an uneven tone. It's like, well, I want to make sure that I keep the tone all the way through. So working with her was different, and she responds better with like music. So I'd made these playlists for her for each individual character. I remember working with her, and it was like she was at the wheel of the car and she was changing the character that, you know, she was swapping to a different triplet, and she was singing the song from she was tapping the wheel and singing the song from one of the playlists, you know. So they called Erica, Jessica, and Glenda, and the Glenda character's a bit nuts. She was singing one of the songs, like to sort of get herself into it. So that's what she responded to. You know, Evelyn needed a bit more convincing because she was just in her own head too much because she hadn't done this before. And I remember, I think I said to her, like, cause I'd seen her stand up and stuff, and I was like, you just got to remember, you've already done the things that made me want to give you this role. She's already there, so you can already do it. And that, I think that helped her get out of her shell a little bit, you know. With Smiley, it was understanding that this was his first time as a lead, and he took that responsibility really importantly, and it was working with that and understanding what that meant to him. And then with Julian, it was like, oh, do what you want. To a certain extent, because he's like, dude, it's unbelievably, you know, we rewrote lots of bits of his dialogue when we were in the camper van. And,
to get more out of him. You were like, he's here. It's absolutely pissing down. We're in Wales. Let's give him more. Let's see what you can, because he's great, isn't he?
So in terms of how you approach it, it is understanding each person is different. There isn't a one catch-all thing. And it's being clear with your direction in terms of what it is you want him to do. But I would never ever be specific and say, I need line reads. I need you to do this. You know, we would discuss what the character needs. We kind of go around the houses and sort of like discuss and then get them to build the character themselves, and realizing that it's a collaboration. It's not a diktat. You know, this is what the character is. But I also want you to bring your own stuff to it, you know, and nice. Feel like you can experiment.
Is that what you said when you were auditioning, or when you were, you know, doing your first call with, I imagine you didn't audition Michael Smiley, Paul Kay, or certainly not Julian Glover. Is that what you almost said to them as well, whether it's either audition or the meeting, the same thing, you know, because that pitch bit is the tough bit when you suddenly go, the actor's interested, now they want to speak to you. You've now got to go, okay, here's my, you know, how did you deal with that?
I think I had a mad day in London where they sort of set up a load of meetings with each, like we had no time. So I just went up and I just went crisscross London. I met Evelyn, Michael, Gary, Iwan. We just went all over the shop trying to meet them. And then really what it is at that level is selling them on me a little bit, because they'd read the script and they'd like the script. And that's why people were going to do it. Sure. We were a go project. So it's like, well, we are filming on this date. Here's the money. It's crap money, but this is what it's going to be.
We're going. Yeah, this isn't a mess around. Yeah.
So then he was just selling them on me a little bit. So he was trying to sort of understand who they were as people, you know. And with Smiley, I was knackered at the end of the day. I was absolutely exhausted. Going all the way around London, met loads of different actors, and meeting lots of people in one go and different situations is, you know, and selling the same thing is quite taxing. And I came out of Brixton Station, and, you know, I loved space as a kid, and then when I was younger. And then I just get a shout, and I couldn't see where he was. And I just shout, Ryan! I looked out, and in the middle of the road was Michael Smiley on a bike. So I was like, this is so bizarre. And we went for coffee in one of the markets with this woman who, it was her birthday, and she gave us some cake, and it was a bonkers day. And then my car didn't work, so he had to pay for the tea. It was so cringe.
Oh, wow.
But it was like, it was just selling them on me, like who I am, what I want to do, what I want you to do, and what our relationship will be like.
Yeah.
And yeah, thankfully they all said yes. So yeah, that's kind of how that worked. And then the only role we auditioned was Tab's role, which Darren Evans got. And that was a really difficult role to audition. I think I hate self-tapes.
Right.
I think they are ridiculous for actors. I mean, because it's always, you know, an actor usually in their flat, you know, their pants are on the radiator drying.
Totally.
they got their roommate who's probably working in finance or computing, reading lines to that. It's just not fair or an indicative way for them to audition, do you know what I mean? So, and some people get really fortunate. I think I remember reading that like Josh Brolin or self-tape for
Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, was it? Yeah.
No Country for
No Country, that was it.
Men, you know, Tarantino directs it and Robert Rodriguez shoots it. It's like, do you know what I mean? That dude is getting that job. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to say no to that. But for most, you know, they'll be like this, you know, where it's overexposed and it's
unfair for actors. Agree.
Yeah, it's so unfair. So it's difficult. But the tab tapes, I just said, I gave them a really bizarre note of what they wanted them to do, and we just got these insane tapes, and they were so clever. Some of them were like, we had one guy who just was standing there with a triangle, getting ready for his moment in the orchestra was playing in some audio, and things happened to him that sort of prevented him from. And then right at the very end, he managed to do. It was really clever. Do you know what I mean? And we had loads of stuff like that. But that was the only role we auditioned. But really, it was selling them on me that I'm not a complete arsehole.
And that's usually what it is. If they like the script, they like the project and the producers and the team, then it's about the director then selling them on not being
an arsehole helps.
Not being an arsehole and understanding the project and loving the project enough that they trust you. And as long as that trust's there, they go, right, okay, I can trust this person. I'm not going to make me look a fool. I'm going to have a decent time.
Yeah, and not just making them look like a fool. I think it's also being a communicator and someone that's open. Because I imagine people like Michael Smiley that have done so much stuff, for someone to come along and then just tell them, nope, this is my way or the highway, would be incredibly frustrating and probably their worst nightmare. So to know that you're open-minded and they can have a conversation backwards and forwards, I think is incredibly important, as well as attitude as well.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I wouldn't know I don't know if you agree, but like that's way more fun.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Massively,
it's a lot more fun to do that way. So directors, everyone's different. Do you know what I mean? Like, but for me, I want to have fun as well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We are incredibly fortunate to be doing this for a living. Unbelievably fortunate to be doing this for a living. So
you're so right.
Let's have. It's so stressful. It's so hard, and blah 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 blah. Treat everyone nicely and have fun, and you should be okay then.
I love that attitude. What can you remember your first day? Because obviously directing your feature for the first time on that first, it's like, it's happening. Do you remember that moment, or were you just, let's go? Can you remember it at all now looking back?
That's a good question. I don't really remember the specifics of that day. I remember the night before.
Yes.
Thinking, because I was like, oh my God, what if I hate this? Like, it's taken so long to get here. What if I get on set? I absolutely end the day hating it. And I didn't. I just remember loving it. I remember thinking, you're feeling like, I don't know if I necessarily believe in like fate or fatalism or anything like that, or if there are things you're supposed to be doing with your life. But it did feel like, whether I'm any good at it or not, like this is at least what
I want to be doing.
I should be doing. Yeah. And that is validating a little bit. And because if I could be saying this to you, I could be lying to myself, really. So it's, it's just being able to honestly say that is really important, and that is the thing. I think I remember the night more than I remember the day, to be honest with you. I think it was just a small amount of fear, but then just thought, you can't be wrong as a director. It's make-believe. You're making stuff up. You maybe might not like it, but you're not wrong. You can't be right or wrong. You can be right or wrong in the way you treat people, but then that's being a human being. Do you know what I mean? Like, that shouldn't change
just be
being a director. You just be rubbish.
Yeah,
you can just be rubbish.
You could be.
But I do think, what you're saying about the night before, like, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but I find there's a bit of a calm before the storm kind of feeling. Like the stress is in like the build-up weeks, and by the time you're on the night before, like what's going to happen is going to happen. You just sort of got to, you've prepared, get a good night's sleep.
Try anyway.
It's game time.
I didn't get a good night's sleep, but I don't remember.
No, I didn't get a good night's sleep. Does anyone get a good night's sleep before their first day of shoot?
I doubt it. The first ever. No, I don't know. I remember one thing I did that really did help, and I've said this before, but I did a video blog every night, prep on a shooting and in post, like literally. And it was the best thing I could have done, because all those things that spin around your head when you put your head on that pillow and go, oh my God, I haven't done that. Oh my God, what's going to happen with that? And that costume. I'd said it all like as a therapy session to the camera. And therefore, when my head hit the pillow, I went, you've just said it all out loud. you can now sleep. And it really, really helped. It's also really interesting watching back now and looking at myself and going, you mentalist, you're far too stressed. But it's invaluable. It's amazing behind the scenes footage as well. But I think that really helped me. And whether you do that as just to even talk it through in your own head, it's almost like there's someone else there. Really made a big difference to take away that stress.
Is there someone else there in your head?
Yeah, of course. Haven't you got inner Dom? What have you learnt, do you think, that you're going to take to your second film as a director from this first one that you might not do again? Or good, and advice if you can give any, because it's always difficult, like you say.
I think, like, technically there's things, that I would do differently, that I would want to do differently. I think one of the big problems we had was we didn't have a post-production schedule in place. So this is going to get techie, right? We shot at 8K.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On a red, I think.
No one wants it at 8K at all at the moment.
Well, yeah, and the reality is when we came to grade, and the thing with 8K is you end up having, basically means every image is bigger than it needs to be.
Basically.
So you need more and more hard drives, which are expensive, and even on a film like ours, that was important, So what it ended up meaning was when we came to sort of finish the grade, the grade was like, we'll only do it at 2 because we're not scanning it at 8. And the frustration about that was huge. It was like, that money, if we'd scheduled this earlier and we knew where we were going, that money that we wasted on multiple hard drives could have been spent on squibs and little dust bombs and stuff like that to sort of mean that I wouldn't have to use CGI. I mean, I think for the next film, I'm not a fan of CGI really, but the next one I definitely wouldn't use it if I could help it. That's a thing that is really, really difficult. But that's like technical stuff in terms of that I would like to sort of do for the next one, which is, and I'm not like criticizing the graders or anyone. Like it was just one of those things where we made a mistake. It was our mistake.
Yeah.
So did you deliver it in 4K or 2K in the end?
2.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, I mean, often a good thing to do if you want to, give yourself the options for 4K later on is just to keep all the project files. But if you've shot it in 4 or 5K, then you've got those options, and that's something I've sort of been through recently.
Especially in the future, because you never know what wants 8K or
like Netflix might want it in 4K at some point.
Well, that's the thing. Like Netflix originals have to be 4, so that's what I was trying to sort of shoe-arm in. Like,
yeah, keep it, and in the future that might become a reality, and then you can reevaluate this conversation. You have to be like, I did it. Yeah. I knew all along.
I knew all along. It's worth it. All that money on hard drives.
One of the things that happens is, particularly if you're low budget, is which will drive cinematographers up the wall, is if you're shooting at 8K, you can reframe quite well.
But the eye lines are wrong.
So I was sort of trying to say to the graders that, look, there's some scenes where we've punched in and we've reframed. So if you scan them in at 2 and then punch in, it's going to be even less than 2. Do you mean? So can we get them in at 4? And they were like, yeah, we'll do that. They did us a big favor in that respect. So, but things like that, it sounds, when you're on such a tight budget, that stuff is really important, it is a bit esoteric and filmmakery, right? But it is something, it's not a mistake I would normally have made if I was in charge of if I knew everything that was going on, So, but I think in terms of as a director, I think the one thing going forward I don't want to lose is just how much I absolutely loved every second of it. Because that gets you through the months afterwards of frustration and argument, and things happened, and we ended up having to replace the editor, and things become sort of like personal relationships kind of break down, and it's not through anyone's fault really. It's not a personal thing; it's just a creative thing sometimes, and you're trying to manage that as well as you can. But the thing that sustains you is that just absolute joy about what it is that you're doing, because that is what will get you through the years and years it can take you to get a film made. Some people don't. Some people are they can churn them out. Ben Wheatley's done like 10 films in 10 years or something. He seems to be able to churn them out. But from everybody else, it's a bit harder, I think. So yeah, that's the thing I would probably is just don't lose sight of the love of what it is that you're doing, because then it becomes a job and a chore. And it's not worth the time and effort and the crap pay as a job. Yeah, and the pain is not worth it. You've got to love it, I think, because it is the best thing. I mean, for me, I loved absolutely every second of it. I loved it.
And you can tell, and it comes across. and The Toll is brilliant and is out now. Go grab a copy. Go support indie filmmaking. It's so important. And find Ryan on Twitter at
RAH Film.
RH Film. Find him there and say well done, and say, you really enjoyed the film, but also you enjoyed the podcast and you enjoyed him talking. And thank him very much for coming on and spending his time talking to us and you filmmakers and giving you some amazing, actually, advice, even though you said you weren't going to give advice. Actually, you gave some brilliant stuff.
And make sure you pay your toll to independent film and watch it.
Jesus. He's back.
You can use that one too.
I'm going to pretend at that point the dom cut out.
Oh, God.
No, that's going in.
Is it? Brilliant. Thank you so much. And remember, you can go out there and make your indie film. Know who your audience is and get out there and do it. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, to make an indie film just as Ryan has done, then you have to send that elevator. Oh, Jesus.
Elevator back down.
You have to send the elevator back down. Thank you so much for listening. You've all been superstars. Ryan, Hooper, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
We will see you all next Tuesday. Take care. Go make your indie films and go watch indie films. Toll is out now. Bye.
Bye.